I'm Mark Janes. Welcome once again to another edition of the Hornet Spotlight. It's time for us to induct another proud graduate of Beech Grove High School into the Beech Grove High School Hall of Fame, and we welcome a member of the class of 1993, DJ McCallister. We want to welcome you back to Beech Grove High School.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your induction into the Hall of Fame. Let's talk about what was Beech Grove High School like not that long ago in 1993.
I think the biggest change is from when I first started here as a freshman, it's grown quite a bit. There's the new science labs, just the studio in particular, and the administrative offices. None of that was here when I started as a freshman. So the growth is really exciting and something that's been fun to watch over the years.
Yeah, now a lot of Hall of Fame inductees, we brought them here, and they've said when they were in school, this was part of the band room. Was this part of the band room when you were here, or was it a television studio at that time?
Yes, I believe my freshman year, maybe part of my sophomore year, this was the band room. But by the time I was a junior and senior, it had migrated to the television studio, and I believe I took a class here with Dale Thomas.
Now let's talk about extracurricular activities when you were here at Beech Grove High School. Cross country, baseball, the two sports you focused on?
Yeah. I spent a few years playing football, but then settled in playing baseball every year. Ran cross country my senior year. Was pretty active in a lot of some of the more academic competitions. You know, I believe they have a science Olympiad team at the time that I participated in. And then something I discovered about myself that I had forgotten just through this process was just some of the extracurricular things I did over the summer. Going up to Ball State to do programs in lasers and holography and nuclear research. And it was things like that I think really enriched my whole experience.
Well, as much as you were able to accomplish in those days in 1993, how excited would you have been to see that Science Academy you had the chance to take a look at today?
It would have been fantastic back then. I honestly believe the core of what you learn is more about the people teaching you than where you're sitting. And I don't know that that's changed a whole lot. I think you still have fantastic staff and really, really good teachers here. But having the access to the technology and some of the equipment and some of the facilities, I mean, it changes the dynamic. It gives you a chance to really embrace what you're learning from a book, you know, in the books or in lectures, and really take it to a new level.
So that interest and appreciation in science led you to Wabash College, where you focused on physics?
Yes, yeah. I actually was really inspired by my physics teacher here at the high school. His name was George Porter. He's not with us anymore, but he really pushed me. He really put a little a bug in my ear that I couldn't let go of. And when I got to college, I was dead set on being a physics major. And after my freshman year, it was a lot easier said than done. I was just not a strong physics major at that school. But I stuck it out, and I realized that half of me getting through that, the hard work and the diligence and the commitment to being, completing the task, was as important as anything else I was doing at the time.
For folks who might not be aware exactly, I mean, everybody's heard of physics. They either had it in school or they stayed as far away from it as they possibly could in school. Talk a little bit about what you focused on, what challenges were you presented by declaring physics as a major at Wabash?
I think one of the biggest challenges is the thought process. You have to develop a very analytical way to look at things, and I don't think I had fully gotten to the point where I could do that effectively by the time I graduated high school. I mean, it took me a good year and a half before I really felt comfortable with the kind of methodical approach you have to take to everything in physics. And outside of that, probably the biggest hurdle I had was the competition. I was in school with some very, very bright people who have gone on to do very impressive things in the realm of physics and computer science for that matter. And it was very hard to keep up with them. So part of that was a challenge, it was a fun challenge. It was that competition drew out a lot in me, but another part of it was nerve-wracking, always wondering where you're falling in that bell curve of grades.
What does one plan to do with a physics degree, or at what point in your time spent at Wabash, when did you start to make up your mind what you thought you would want to do with that?
It was probably at the end of my sophomore year where I realized I was not going to go on to physics graduate school. Part of that was how I felt about the topic and about my professors and about the just kind of the general level of study I had to do. Another part of it was just, it just wasn't in me. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't have the passion that my peers had. So at that point, I started exploring a lot of other things.
One of those things you explored down the road about the time you graduated, if I understand the chronologic order of what you gave me, your first experience, one of your first experiences out of college was at the Lafayette Brewing Company.
That's correct, yeah. I had started home brewing in college and really enjoyed it. It's this perfect mesh of science and history and artisan or craftsmanship that just is, it's spectacular. It's a fantastic process to learn about and to understand and to study. And I realized all of this probably into my senior year, but it came to fruition with our oral comprehensive exams at Wabash. I was sitting in front of 3 professors. They were asking me some very detailed questions about my major, physics, my minor, philosophy, and I was really struggling. You know, I was struggling to formulate clear answers. Was not concise. And then they asked me what I wanted to do, and I told them about brewing beer. And you know, this kind of shock came over them. They're like, "Well, that doesn't have anything to do with physics." And I'm like, "Well, you'd be amazed." And it was an opportunity for me to explain how my education and my experiences at school tied into this process and this history of brewing that was really incredible.
So you walked in the door of a Lafayette Brewing Company and you applied for a job there with a degree in physics. How do those two tie in?
You know, I think the tie-in for me was that human connection I made with the owner of Lafayette Brewing Company, Greg Emig. He had gone to Wabash as well, so he had a lot of respect for the school. Taking me at face value, he realized I was a hard worker. Again, a direct derivative of being a physics major. No one looks at anyone who majors in a hard science and thinks, probably a slacker.
Yeah,
you know,
you can't do that.
You can't do it. It takes too much work to get through it. And based on those things, you know, he let me in the door to do some very basic stuff. You know, here I had a bachelor's degree in physics, and I was scrubbing floors and cleaning kegs and just doing very menial things. But that was the process. And the goal was, if I could do those things really well every time, then the next day I got to try something else.
Interesting point you should bring up about the ownership of the Lafayette Brewing Company and the connection that you had with him through Wabash. Wabash, like DePaul, perhaps like Franklin, and certainly Rose-Hulman, let's face it, the connection that they're able to maintain through their alumni makes an education at a place like Wabash not only something that benefits you for 4 years, but because of the connections and the networking that you create through the alumni, it's a fabulous network building opportunity.
Absolutely. It's that human connection you get at small schools, and there are many very good schools here in Indiana, you know, from Hanover down south, you know, all the way up into northern Indiana at Tri-State and so on. You get these really fabulous ways to meet people, to learn from them, and then later on partner up or team with them in ways that you would never expect. My network through Wabash is extensive, and it's very valuable to me.
How long were you with the Lafayette Brewing Company?
I started in October of '92. I left summer of '99. So a handful of years. You know, it was a great experience. I loved working. I learned as much about business and just operations in general there. On top of all the brewing experience I had, it really propelled me into probably my next 2 or 3 jobs.
Which were?
Once I left Lafayette Brewing Company, I started a water bottling company. It was small. It was based on private labeled bottled water. We would design private labels and do custom work all around the state. Lots of fun. Unfortunately, it was a novelty item. And around, you know, 2000, 2001, I mean, it was a tough time. So we ended up closing the business down. And at that point, I enrolled in an MBA program. And decided I was going to pursue a different course, and I ended up getting my MBA in finance from DePaul University up in Chicago, and that migrated me into a company called Exelon. They run nuclear power plants. And with the bachelor's in physics, the MBA in finance, I was a perfect fit for them.
So go ahead and explain to folks exactly, they're going to want to know, and certainly I do too.
Well, you know what, when you look at a big company like that, they have a lot of needs. And the need gap I filled was based on my methodical approach to problems, my ability to think analytically and critically of every situation that was presented to me. And honestly, more than anything, my ability to get work done. I proved myself to be a hard worker from day one, and leveraged that for multiple levels of advancement into the company. When I left there in 2009, it was an opportunity for me to explore something else. And my wife and I decided mutually it was a good time to move back home. So we moved back to Indianapolis, and I started pursuing my brewery, Black Swan Brew Pub.
That's located in Plainfield, 267 and I-70. It's west of Indianapolis International Airport. First and foremost, we were talking with Mr. Clevenger, assistant principal here at Beech Grove High School. Where did the name the Black Swan come from?
So Black Swan is an old adage. It refers to rare events or things that don't happen very often. And as we were putting the brew pub together, a lot of things just started falling into place, things that we didn't expect to happen at all. And that phrase, Black Swan, kept popping up over and over again, and it fit. And it sounded like it had this very old English pub kind of feel to it. So we just ran with it. And I became familiar with the phrase through a book called The Black Swan by Nassim Taleb. I think it was written around 2001, and it talks about the impact that unexpected market events can have. And, we're a small little brew pub on the west side, southwest side of Indianapolis. You don't expect a lot from that. But what we're doing is we're taking that as an opportunity to really expose people to new kinds of food, fresh, handmade aiolis, and you name it. We just want to have fun, and we do the same thing with the brewery side. The beers we put out are aggressive and exciting. They explore all facets of traditional brewing, but also new hybrids.
During that period of time that you were working for the company involved in the nuclear industry in Chicago, I'm assuming that you continued to chase your passion for brewing your own beer? Oh,
absolutely. I would homebrew as often as I could. Perfect time of year, it's a little snowy, you're told to don't come into work at all or work from home. It's a prime opportunity for me to multitask. I'd have a batch brewing on the stove while I was, checking emails or working on projects.
All of that you developed, or a big chunk of what you've developed over the years you can find on the menu at the Black Swan?
Yeah, and to some extent. I mean, there are certain things that translated over one-to-one. A good example in the brewery is our cream stout. I love that beer. It's one of my all-time favorites, and it is a recipe that I developed while sitting in a small little kitchen up in Chicago. From a food perspective, it's been a very collaborative effort with myself and our executive chef, who was with us when we first opened, Nick Carter, also a friend of mine from Wabash. And we spent a lot of time talking about food pairings and what goes great with a certain flavor in the beer, or what accent in the food would maybe instigate me to brew a new kind of beer for the pub.
Someone walks into the Black Swan, never been to a brew pub like that before. Are those the people that you really enjoy getting in the door? I mean, there's certainly more than novices, people that are experienced in that sort of experience in a restaurant, but is it pretty exciting to get somebody in who's never been there before and walk them through that process?
I'll tell you, we have some... I have a favorite type of customer. Obviously I love our regulars.
Sure.
They believe in us. They've always supported us. But deep down, when we get tables of, say, more mature adults, men and women in their 60s, 50s or 60s, I get so excited when they start drinking our beer, and it's because they grew up in a time where craft beer didn't exist.
Right.
This is a phenomenal change from what they grew up with, what they drank when they were in
Yeah,
college.
I'm kind of the church key generation myself.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and you know what? I just get giddy when I see a table like that come in and order a round of stouts or a round of IPAs. You know, these really bold, aggressive beers that maybe some of my compatriots in the industry feel are only for, those beers are only for, you know, real craft beer drinkers, people who've been around the block a little bit. But it's not true. Things that taste good always taste good.
On the business side of this, how often in the early stages were you absolutely taken aback by things you didn't know, or did you have mentors or people that you sought the advice of? And then allow that conversation to take you into discussing how difficult it is from a regulatory standpoint to operate a restaurant that manufactures and serves its own alcohol.
Sure. I'll tell you, the surprises were limited for me. I spent upwards of 12 years thinking about this and planning it out. So much of what happened was very much expected. It went like it was going to go. I mean, we knew it was all coming. That said, man, the shocker, and it still shocks me today, are the number of ways you can lose money if you're not paying attention. It is so easy to buy a new this or sign up for this program or something like that, and next thing you know, you walk away from the month in the red. So you have to be very cautious, especially for a company like ours. We're bootstrappers. You know, we go out there, we make a living by working hard and by being engaged and trying to understand the business better every day. Now, the regulatory side is really just, it's another piece of the puzzle. Unfortunately, it's a very complex piece, and it's hard to make it fit it all together. Part of that is the ambiguity. On the federal level, we're regulated at a federal level because we produce beer. We're regulated on a state level as well. And the laws don't always coincide. Sometimes they're written so vaguely that no one's really quite sure how to interpret them. So it takes a lot of effort and a lot of discussions. You count on your peers. We have a fantastic network in Indiana amongst the brewers. I sit on the board of the Brewers Guild, and on any given topic, I have 6, 7, 10 people I can call up if I have to.
Right.
Not all of them know the answer, but it's really handy when you're in a pinch and you're trying to understand something to have that access when you need it.
Are your products available only in your restaurant, or can people take them? Can they go there, purchase? Can they buy them online for those that don't know?
Sure. You know, from an alcohol standpoint, our beer is only available at the brew pub, and that is a very deliberate aspect of our business plan. As I was formulating the concept of this business, you have a lot of options when it comes to breweries. Nowadays, you have traditional brew pubs like us. You have hybrids, brew pubs, say like Barley Island, who has a restaurant. They have in-house service, but then they also do a lot of outside distribution. You have what they call growler houses, small little shops that all they do is sell growlers out the door. And then you have production breweries, Triton, Flat 12, Sun King, and so on. And when we were putting our model together, we were convicted to that brew pub model. We want to sell every drop we made over the bar, and that's what makes our business work. If we try to venture outside of that, we're adding cost for very little return. So it's very important for us to maintain our discipline.
I could be wrong. Correct me if I am, please. But I feel like that Central Indiana is a tremendous climate for brew pubs. I mean, for all the, it gets a tremendous amount of exposure media-wise. I mean, the Indianapolis Star, Indianapolis Monthly Magazine, all the television stations. It seems like rarely a week goes by without some story relating to that industry here in Central Indiana. Have you been pleased with the growth since you've been involved with the Black Swan?
Oh, it's been fantastic. Yeah, the craft beer industry in Indiana is making some big strides. When I started brewing in 92, or I'm sorry, 90, like 96, 97, I don't even know if we had 1% saturation into the population. Since then, now we're, Indianapolis is like a 6% says a lot about the community right now. People are focused on local, and for good reason. Local businesses support local families and local schools, and it's in local government, and that's where breweries are positioned right now. We're as local as you can get, and we're pushing to become more local. We have an effort right now teaming up with Purdue University, trying to establish a supply chain in state to have barley grown in the state, malted in the state, and distributed to the brewers here. Same thing with hops. We want more hop growers so we can have local hops. And you're talking about this very grand, big vision of creating an ecosystem or an economic system in the state that is self-sustaining and really does a lot to help all the local communities across the state.
With the renovated downtown, a Black Swan 2 would look awfully nice down there.
You know what? It's that temptation's always out there. You know, especially when things are going well, you feel like it's the prime opportunity to grow your business or do something else. I think there's a lot of opportunity for us in the future. I don't know if we want a Black Swan 2. It feels special.
Yeah, sure.
You know, and for different reasons. You know, I have 2 boys, and my first son's very special to me.
Yeah.
And my second son's very special to me in a totally different way. Mm-hmm. And I think if we had a second restaurant, it would be a new take on something we've already tried.
Well, let's talk about this one real quick. Again, I-70 westbound.
Yes. State
Road 267, that's the Plainfield exit. You get off, turn to the right, go to the first light, turn left. You can't miss it. Right there on the corner. It's behind the Burger King for those that are familiar with that area. So less than 15, 20 minutes tops, depending on the traffic on 465. Hours of operation?
We're open Monday through Sunday. Fridays and Saturdays we stay open until midnight, but otherwise we close at 10. We do lunch service, dinner service. We're family friendly. In fact, a very small portion of our building is dedicated to what we would call a traditional bar. It's just where it's more of a logistical thing for excise so that we have a place to serve the alcohol.
Sure.
We have a small rustic brewery on the east side of the building. It's all used dairy equipment, and if you ever see me back there, make sure you pop in, say hi.
Yeah, especially if you're from Beech Grove, right?
Absolutely.
So is there a website? Do you have a website people can go get an advanced look at the menu maybe?
Yes, it's www.blackswanbrewpub.com. We're on Facebook, and you can find us on Twitter at BlackSwanBP.
With everything that you've accomplished, you cap all of that off by being now and forevermore a member of the Beech Grove High School Hall of Fame. I don't know if you've had a chance to look on that wall out there or not. Do so if you haven't before you leave. There's pretty impressive folks that have passed through these hallways. You joined a pretty elite fraternity, and we want to congratulate you. Get your thoughts on that. How do you feel about joining the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I was talking about it 2 weeks ago with another alumni and member of the Hall of Fame, J.C. Micketts. It's exciting and it's fun, and it's good to be in company like that.
Well, congratulations to you. Thanks for spending time with us today.
Thank you very much.
That's DJ McCallister. He's our latest inductee into the Beech Grove Hall of Fame. Okay, let's go over the schedule for the rest of the month of January. Coming up on the 23rd, girls basketball. That's a rescheduled game. They'll take on New Pal. Coach Parker has those ladies playing awfully well as they prepare for the postseason tournament. A wrestling event. It's senior night. Get here on the 23rd. It's senior night. Some outstanding wrestlers wrestling their last beat here at Beech Grove High School. We crowned a couple of conference champions recently, and Coach Irwin has that group of kids going in the right direction. It's time for another exciting edition of BG Idol. Juniors will compete on the 24th. Seniors will take their turn on the 25th. The ninth graders, the freshmen, they have a conference wrestling meet. No, actually, I take that back. It's the Marion County Wrestling Meet. That'll be here at Beech Grove, that too on the 25th. And Coach English and the basketball team, they will be at Danville. That's a potential sectional opponent. They'll be at Danville on the 25th. The boys and girls swim team, the boys, of course, are conference champions. They will take part in the Warren Central Invitation on the 25th, too. So January 25th, an awfully busy day. On the 27th, Algebra 1 acuity testing begins. That's for you moms and dads. You can help get those kids ready for that. Girls basketball on the 28th at Tenley. And then the boys basketball team on the 31st take on Lutheran That's a conference game, and that will be here at Beech Grove again that January 31st. Before we go, we want to say congratulations to our producer, the guy who directs this operation. Wiley Kraft is January Educator of the Month here at Beech Grove High School. Long overdue and certainly well-deserved, so congratulations to Mr. Kraft. Stay warm. Hopefully it'll warm up at some point. We've got to believe spring is just around the corner. For now, I'm Mark James. So long.